Howdy! In this video, we're going to be going over the basic skill sets that you'll need to master to compete at the highest level of Yu-Gi-Oh! Play. I wouldn't be telling you how to really gain these skills, just telling you in basic terms why these skills are important. So, if you enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment, and any suggestions for future videos down below. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. One of the biggest things is obviously deck building. Now, this seems very simple to understand, however, many people do not put that much thought and time into building their decks. Net decking, looking up a deck list online and copying from them, has become the standard for many players, and net decking can be a powerful tool if you use it right, a lot like how AI chatbots are. The main problem, just like with AI chatbots, is that people just copy and paste everything, the entire deck list, without looking over or truly understanding why specific cards are there and others are not. This fundamentally puts you at a disadvantage while playing, not having a full grasp on why certain cards are in there and why certain cards aren't. It puts you behind. Like I said, net decking can be a powerful tool, but it's a tool. It's not meant for you to just blindly copy the deck list. It's meant to give you ideas to help you out when you are stuck. Hey, what is the proper card to bridge? I'm trying to bridge these two archetypes. Has anybody else tried to do that? And just copy and pasting a deck list, it lacks your personal flair. And personal flair is all about what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. The ability that you have with over 14,000 cards in an eternal format to can you put your own spin on things. And if you create a deck list that is identical to a deck list that you found online, it kind of puts you with a feeling of vindication and gives you a little boost of confidence, saying that you're on the same mindset of some of the better players, and having a boost in confidence can help you play better because confidence is key. The next topic I want to go over is where to interact with your opponent. This also seems very simple, but knowing what your opponent has or could have and playing around that becomes a very powerful gadget in your utility belt. For example, let's say you're playing against Primite Blue Eyes. You're going second. Your hand pretty much has one interaction, which is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and they start off with Primite Lordly Load. Should you Ash the load? I would argue no. Ashing the load is powerful, and it can keep them off of Primite Drill Beam, which is a negate and banish of a face-up card. However, if your opponent has any other card in hand, even something like an Effect Veiler, as long as it is a level 4 or lower Dragon or Spellcaster, or even Kaibaman the Legend, you allow him to go full Blue Eyes combo instead of just the one negate. I would argue that you should either Ash the Kaibaman the Legend, if they start with that, or the Spirit with Eyes of White. This will stop them from getting the Blue Eyes monsters in rotation easily. And having them get Blue Eyes in rotation puts you in a very advantageous situation. So, if you stop them on the Spirit with Eyes of White, if you don't know, that allows them to get the Mausoleum of White, which gives them an extra normal summon, and a send of a Blue Eyes. If you Ash the Spirit of White and that resolves, they basically have a dead Link 1 on their field. And they would have to probably play more complex lines. And a lot of people may only think of very linear. This kind of puts you in the advantage. if they are running brain dead, if they are just copying what they've seen from the online guides, and you cut them off from that, well, you now are in a better situation. And we will actually circle back to that kind of simplistic lines here in just a minute. Because I also want to talk about that really fits into this is not immediately firing off your interruptions, otherwise known as shotgunning them. Many people, including, and you can even be in this argument if you are one, would be overconfident in their board states. I know I often get overconfident in my board states, and I just negate the first things I see. Because in my mind, my board is uncrackable. I'm just going to negate, banish, do whatever, uh, right off the rip without any consequences, right? Well, not really. I'd become way overconfident and play myself right out of the game by just shotgunning things. Learning where and when to interact with your opponent takes time and practice and knowledge on the type of deck they're running. And like I said, now let's go back a little bit to the brain dead kind of following play sheets, spreadsheets on how to play. This is good for learning the basics of a deck. If you are just picking up a deck for the first time, sure, let's use, again, I'll be using this example throughout the video, the Primite Blue Eyes. If you have never picked up this deck before, sure, go and look at mini videos online if you want, telling you how these cards work together, here's the basic lines, stuff such as. But if you just go off of what the YouTube combos are, you may not realize, hey, what happens if I get drolled? What happens if I get ashed? How do I play under D-Shifter? What are the lines? That's kind of comes along with the time and practice and knowledge. But instead of knowledge of your opponent's deck, you have to have knowledge of your own deck. Which then goes back to that first point that I made with net decking. If you just picked up a deck, net decked it right out the rip, and didn't really have great knowledge of your own deck and how it runs, and then you look at basic combo lines, you might just run into a situation where you are completely and utterly unprepared for it. So, take time, practice patience, and learn. The next thing I want to talk about is the skill of baiting. It's almost invaluable. You don't want to become average, you want to be a master at baiting here. The ability to play around certain interactions, like I said with the Primite Blue Eyes. Let's say you are playing the Primite Blue Eyes in this situation. Would you rather your Primite Lordly Load get ashed, or the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, or Sage with Eyes of Blue get ashed? Well, you would rather have the Lordly Load because it is the least powerful of those other options. And properly baiting these out to maximize it is great. Let's say you want to bait out Ash Blossom and you have the Wishes. Wishes and the Sage. Well, do you want to resolve the Wishes or the Sage more? They generally do the same thing, but I would argue you want the Wishes to resolve more because it adds 2 cards. So maybe start with the Sage. If that gets impermed or Ash Blossomed, you're fine. You're more fine with that than Wishes, I should say. And knowing how to bait something makes your boards much more difficult to crack. So you would have to learn how to really bait, and that is basically, like everything else, is with practice and patience and knowledge. Those previous three things are more about knowledge of the game state and how to navigate it, right? These next few are more outside of the understanding of just how decks are played and are more on how players play. You can make the argument that the skill of baiting should be in this segment. I would argue not. The first thing I want to talk about is one of my favorite things to do. This is the art of the bluff. Now, you have to be careful. Bluffing is fine. Lying is against tournament policy. Bluffing is a very powerful tool if you can master it. Drawing dead cards that you cannot activate, or that you have no need to activate them, they aren't necessarily dead. They can be used as bluffs, setting them or acting as their interruptions in your hand, and playing them off convincingly can make your opponent just thoroughly outplay themselves. Let's say the only interaction you have is something like Nibiru. You know that your opponent can just knock you down to 0 before they even summon 5, or insulate themselves before going through summon 5. So, let's say you set a few cards, they don't really do anything, and on select actions, you act as if you're thinking about interacting with them, even though you have nothing. This here, you have to be careful. You don't want to do it on every single interaction, because your opponent will kind of catch on that, hey, it might be a bluff. Be very certain and very particular on which cards are being activated, and knowledge of what deck you're playing against, and kind of talking out loud even on the plays. This will enhance that bluffing nature and could make them play themselves right out of the game. If you want a example of this, just a bluff working to the nth degree and having an opponent play around a card that isn't even there, I would recommend a Team Evo video titled "The Greatest Bluff of All Time." Not the greatest bluff of all time, my bad. The greatest bluff ever. To see how bluffing a dead card can change the entire trajectory of a turn or a duel in a real life setting. And it's also a bonus because the bluff is done by yours truly. That link to that video is actually going to be in the description down below, so check them out as well. The last thing that I want to go over is another very simplistic thing. And it's just making friends with the people at your locals. It's a two-player game. Having friends will help you learn, will help you play test. And this is a tremendous resource that not a lot of people think about. Joining a Discord community, or just having a group chat with the people there to discuss new cards, new techs, all of that stuff will help you out. Me, I consider myself one of the worst players at the locals that I go to. And my friends that I made at locals are leaps and bounds ahead of me in skill. So, you could argue that I use them for their knowledge. I don't. They're more than just a use. Obviously, I consider them as friends. But I do want to hear what they say about deck building, about deck tech, about pretty much anything they have to say about the very highly competitive game. But you also want to have somebody that is necessarily not at your place level either, or plays on a completely different style than you do. Maybe they like to play more wacky stuff. Let's say, put myself in there as an example as well. There is a proper way to play Labyrinth. And then there is my way to play Labyrinth. The proper way to play Labyrinth, I would say, is to pair it up with a bunch of floodgates and try to just control the game using your traps and the floodgates and having cards that your opponent can't easily out just by having a bunch of effects, because skill drain will be on the board. Having the 2900 Lady Lab and the 3000 Lovely Lab is very hard to get over, with the furnitures constantly replenishing your trap lineup. And then there's my way, where I use the furnitures to dump Slifer, and I use Lovely Lab to set the Revive Sky God so I can summon Slifer. That is goofy, and you want to have friends with the people that do play a little bit more goofy, because at regional levels and even at YCS levels with people that are doing it as side quests, they will play more goofy strategies. Like, even at regionals, you might run up against somebody that's playing a deck list that you have never seen before, because it is wacky, it is wonky. Well, there might be a card in there that one of your friends be like, that they put, I should say, in most of the deck list. Now you know how to play around it. Having these wonky styles is primarily how we look at somebody like Jeff Leonard and him being very successful at his level. Him always playing these wonky strategies to, at the end of the day, Exodia somebody. So yeah, playing all around and having friends in every single, every single thing, level of the game, whether that's the very competitive or the very casual side, will help you improve your game. And like I said at the beginning of this, it's a 2-player game. So you would like to have at least one other person that you can talk to about things. And you want to have differing opinions than people as well, so you can learn. You don't want to be in an echo chamber. So yeah, these skills will increase your dueling ability exponentially. Whether that is you're at locals and you just want to do better at locals, or if you are genuinely trying to compete at the higher level, regionals, YCSs, and even if you are in regions that have nationals, or if in North America where we have the World Qualifier. So, yeah, hopefully you take these skills and improve upon them if you're struggling. These, again, are just basics. They are something that is, if you are around the card game, you might think these are second nature. But these are things that I even see people at my locals, that's a very competitive locals, just fail to realize. So, yeah, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you have any future videos you want me to discuss, video ideas you would want me to discuss. And, as always, peace and chicken grease.